rich and prosperous history, Native Americans have had a tumultuous cultural journey. Over the course of fundamental acculturation by Europeans, as well as over 90% of tribes being wiped out by disease, many native tribal groups have had a difficult time maintaining their cultural fervency. However, some tribes have been affected more than others. For example, the Patuxet tribe of Plymouth, Massachusetts, is completely extinct. This is not to say that all native tribes have lost their culture. Many native groups, such as the Plains Indians, have preserved their culture and religious practices even in modern times, proving that Native American culture as a whole has been preserved. To further explore the intricacies of Native culture and how it has been perpetuated, we will focus on a single Indian tribe, the Apache. The epitome of a native group that has resisted assimilation relatively well, the Apache tribe is a fascinating microcosm of Indian culture that allows one to see the greater scope and beauty of the Native American way of life. To better grasp this concept, we will explore the traditions of Indian tribes early in their history, consider how native cultures are the same and how they are different, and finally look at what is being done today to preserve native culture.
In times past and present, Indian culture has been a vibrant force that influences the lives of all natives. This was especially the case in pre-Columbian times, as Indians were outside of European influence. Through the consistencies between past and modern art of the Apache tribes, one can see how the culture of the Apache has been preserved. This map depicts the different territories held by the numerous Native American tribes of the United States. We will be focusing on the Apache tribes of the southwestern area.
A common misconception of Native Americans is that all constituent tribes are one and the same, reinforcing the falsity that their cultures have combined. There are significant differences and nuances that are not necessarily apparent at first glance.
The following video shows us one of the cultural practices of the Apache peoples and how unique the Apache culture is, breaking down the idea that Native peoples and culture are all the same.
Over the span of 4 days, 13-year-old Dashina Cochise will pass through ancient tests of strength, endurance, and character that will make her a woman. The Mescalero Apache hold the ritual every 4th of July. It's a grueling ordeal intended to prepare girls for the trials of womanhood.
When she was a little girl, I knew this is what I wanted to have for her.
Dashina's mother, Millette, has spent more than a year preparing for this week of ceremony. Family members and friends will help her feed and care for more than 50 guests. The family's most important task is selecting Dashina's medicine woman. Zelda Yaza will instruct Dashina in the ways of traditional Apache womanhood.
4 ways into the back open.
The 4-day ceremony encapsulates the Apache creation story. Dashina will move through the stages of life: infant, child, adolescent, woman, culminating in an all-night dance that will test her endurance. The ritual begins with the rising of the morning star. The ceremony requires Dashina to live by strict rules. These 4 days mean little sleep, scant food, and the need to set aside emotion. Throughout the ordeal, she must wear a face of stoic resolve.
I feel very excited and happy, even though I can't smile, but I'll try to show it in some way.
Before Dashina joins the other girls, she is blessed, dusted with pollen, the symbol of fertility. The girls start their journey in a sacred teepee built by their male relatives.
It's cool right now
the basket is filled with pollen and other ceremonial objects. As their ancestors did, the girls run toward the rising sun, circling the basket 4 times to mark the 4 stages of life. The 4th and final day brings Dashina to the cusp of womanhood. She ascends the hill to pray to the mountain spirits for a long and successful life. With darkness near, it's time to dance beside the ceremonial fire. Dashina and the other girls will dance all night long, much of the time hidden in the big teepee. More than 10 hours later, Dashina is still dancing. The medicine men greet the sun, a signal that the final test is near. The girls' faces are painted with white clay symbolizing the goddess. On their last circuit around the sacred basket, the girls wipe away the symbolic clay. With the falling of the teepee, their rite of passage is complete. Dashina receives her Apache woman's name, Morning Star Feather.
Morning Star Feather.
Morning Star Feather.
Yeah.
Everything went well. She's just going to be a strong woman.
Her community gathers, acknowledging that this girl has earned the right to live as a woman of the tribe. As an Apache woman, Dashina serves as a symbol of her culture, renewing and protecting a way of life that's in danger of vanishing.
Finally, we must examine what is being done proactively to preserve Apache culture. To understand Apache culture, we will learn through the context of a first-hand account by a native student.
I am Chiricahua Apache, which is in Arizona. I think the Chiricahua Apache are a little bit more intact. They have, more of their religious beliefs. They still practice stuff like that. They've always considered themselves to be warriors. Geronimo was actually Chiricahua Apache, so they've always been considered fighters. I think language is a really important aspect of tribal identity, because one of those things that theoretically isn't sort of tainted or altered by Europeans. So it's one of those things that their ancestors spoke it. So language is really important, and also just their history, who they are as a people, where they come from, where they're going. So it's just history and language, I think, are both really how they define themselves. My tribe's going through just this, rebirth or renaissance of learning about our culture. I'm sort of, learning about it as well, and just other native cultures in general. So I think for me, at this point, I'm just sort of learning all that I can so I can help better help the native community. Many tribes have had a really difficult time preserving their culture, and I think that the government over the last few years sort of recognized the importance in preserving these cultures, so they've kind of started the effort, and then they sort of realized that Native American tribes have to be the ones that are kind of leading the effort. And I think that college has definitely really impacted how they preserve culture. With linguistics, it helps you understand how a language works, and it'll help you preserve it. So it's just a matter of being educated and going to your elders and collecting all these different bodies of knowledge that they have and kind of combining it. So you really have to have a multifaceted approach to help preserve a culture. You have to make sure the culture is, first and foremost healthy. So, you have to make sure that adequate, needs are being met. They have a place to stay, food to eat, they're educated, stuff like that. Once you have like these basic things met, because a lot of reservations and the standard of living for a lot of natives is actually pretty low. So like once you sort of address those basic necessities that every person should have, then you can go about, preserving your culture. What we need to do is, really address the issues of inequality in education and health, among Native communities. And once we sort of get them to a higher standard of living and actually get them in schools and educated and get them succeeding. Native Americans statistically don't really go to college. It's just they're really underrepresented. So I think that obviously there's a value in receiving higher education because it's proven that it'll raise your standards of living in life. I think the important thing is get their education and they have a desire to go back to the community and use that education to help the community. So I think the value with educating natives, it's really sort of cyclical process, and they really want to give back. Well, I think education is absolutely necessary in preserving Native culture. I mean, you have to understand history. You have to. I think the main thing with natives, you even see with like African American culture, is that you have this Western school of thought that has completely changed the identity of Native Americans here. So I think that like Lindy Tui Smith said that we have to decolonize our mind of this oppression. So I think that in order to decolonize your mind of this oppression, you have to learn and know about the tools that were used to oppress you, like religion, philosophy. I think when you understand like why things are the way they are, then you can start taking that apart and sort of regaining that identity back.
In the previous interview with Elijah Moreno, we were able to grasp an understanding of what it takes for a Native American nation to preserve its culture. What Elijah told us was directly in line with the rite of passage cliff. Education of one's native culture is key.
The Apache culture is vibrant even today. We have seen modern and historic pieces of Apache artwork, examined the unique qualities of the Apache through Dashina Cotis's coming of age, and witnessed the first-hand accounts of Elijah Moreno. Through the words of Elijah and Dashina, we were able to delve into the minds of Apache Indians and see what it takes to preserve Apache culture. The Apache way of life is continued through the education of youth. By teaching their children about their history, the Apache people are able to continue their culture through modern times. In the example of Dashina, we see that the Apache understand that education is critical for preservation.